What is the most embarrassing place that you have fallen asleep? Do you have yours, Mark? Save it. I don't want it right now, but just give that a little bit of thought. And, you know, I could sit here and spend the next 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes just ripping on Joe Biden because he apparently said, according to aides who are now talking to the media, that he almost fell asleep on the debate stage last Thursday night. And I could go on about how he's unqualified, and that's just the latest nail in the coffin. And, you know, it's one of the many nails in the coffin, potentially, to his 2024 reelection bid. But I'm like, you know what? Let's have some fun with this. Day before Independence Day here on KCMO. Let's get you involved. I know many of you are off. Maybe you're down at the lake listening on the KCMO Talk Radio app. But think about this. The most embarrassing place that you've fallen asleep before. Because Joe Biden, according to this report from NBC News, quipped that he almost fell asleep on the debate stage last week against Donald Trump. He apparently, per NBC News, told aides, quote, "It's not an excuse, but an explanation," he added. Aides had previously said that Joe Biden had a cold during the debate. They added it was not immediately clear to what extent Biden was joking about almost falling asleep. Cameras aren't allowed into his fundraisers, and the media relies upon written pool reporters. Biden has a track record of making frank or unexpected comments at fundraisers. This is as he was apologizing for his lackluster performance. Well, if that was meant to be a joke, I'm not sure that's the joke I would be telling if I was Joe Biden. I don't think that people want to hear jokes about how you almost fell asleep on the debate stage when you literally made no sense most of your time on that debate stage. That being said, I was thinking about this from the standpoint of how to engage you at 913-408-7957. And I said, you know what, let's just turn it into a fun little segment here on a Wednesday morning on KCMO. On the most embarrassing place you've fallen asleep. I know mine, and it's not even close. And I've thought a lot about it the last 12 hours since I saw this report on Joe Biden. And I don't want to say who I was with because that will give it away. And it might be embarrassing for that person. They might take it the wrong way. But it is somebody in local politics. 98% of the audience would know. I mean, I'd like to think probably 100% of the audience would know. Don't start guessing in there, Mark, okay? Don't do it. I don't want you to guess and put me on the hot seat here. But I was asked by this person to get lunch. And we went, right down here in Corporate Woods. We went to get lunch at the First Watch over on College Boulevard. Now, it's not there anymore. But it used to be right here in Corporate Woods, there was a First Watch. And we met there at about, 12 o'clock maybe or something like that. So, I go over to First Watch, meet him. We start, I gave away his gender, so you know that much. It's not a female.
Not a they, them.
Not a they, them. No. So we get lunch and listen, you wake up when we wake up. You got little kids. Some days you just more perky than others. That's just how it goes. Depends how the night of sleep goes, everything else, right? Then you eat a big lunch on top of it. That's just, once again, start to get a little groggy. I don't eat big lunches for that very reason. If I ate a big lunch, I'd be falling asleep at my desk. Mark would be dragging me out of the building at about, 2, 3 o'clock. But, you go to First Watch, you got to eat. Got to eat well. So I eat probably more than usual. I was tired for whatever reason. This person is incredibly bright. Has served the region well, but at the same time is maybe more soft-spoken. So we're sitting there, and we're probably an hour and 15 minutes in, and I can just feel as this person is literally sitting right in front of me, we're at a two-person table, I'm feeling my eyes start to close. And I'm like, oh, jeez. Oh, no. And I could tell I was nodding off in the middle of but it really wasn't a conversation. In fairness to me, obviously I wasn't being engaged in this conversation because then I wouldn't have fallen asleep on the person.
Yeah, you were more being talked to probably, right?
I was being talked to. I'm an hour and 15 minutes into this lunch meeting. Lunch meetings should really be 60 minutes hard stop. You go over an hour on a lunch meeting and you've lost most people. So we're an hour and 15 in. Obviously, I'm not feeling like I'm being engaged all that well. And then bing, bang, boom, I can feel myself nodding off. This person, I think, got a little embarrassed. And they're like, time to go. I guess we got to wrap this lunch up. And I'm like, yeah. No, I'm fine. I'm great. So I think about that a lot because it was so embarrassing for me. And I never want that to happen again. And I try to make sure it does not happen again. And there's different ways I do it. You know, if I chug a mini Diet Coke before I walk into a lunch meeting, try to make sure I go to places for lunch that have a lot of light in them, so I'm not in one of these dungeons where I'm like, ready for a nap by the end of it. Eat a little lighter if I'm going to a lunch meeting. I try to do all those things so that, God forbid, never happens again. But it is something I think about a lot and try to learn from quite often. So we got a bunch of experts now on the text line, Mark, on how to do lunch meetings. Pete, that's when you got to start signaling the waitress for some coffee. Hey, need some coffee over here. That's a good point. And that's why I said I'll drink a soda, a Diet Coke or something before I go to a meeting if I'm feeling a little groggy. Give myself that pick-me-up. So I'll admit, I've learned a lot from that. No, it was not Sly James, okay? It was not. I promise you it was not Sly James. Sly James would have clocked me over the head if I fell asleep at a lunch meeting with him.
He's not going to a first watch.
And
he's not, to a steakhouse.
Yeah, Sly is not a first watch guy in Overland Park, okay? If I'm going out with Sly, it's going to have to be somewhere in KCMO. His reputation cannot allow him to spend money outside of Kansas City, Missouri. It's like when I saw Quentin Lucas at Oak Park Mall 4.5 years ago during right before COVID hit. I was like, I don't know if this is a good look for you, strolling around and spending money at Oak Park Mall. But anyway, that's a totally separate deal. 913-408-7957 on the most embarrassing place you've fallen asleep. A bunch of you are saying church. See, that's not... I don't even know if that's embarrassing. I really don't think that's all that embarrassing. If your eyes have closed for 10 to 15 seconds at church, you're called a human being. That's all. That's not a knock on your pastor. That's not a knock on your church. That's just, it's Sunday morning. It's okay. I don't view that as embarrassing at all. And trust me, God forgives you. It's okay. Oh, this is funny. Pete, I've fallen asleep on the toilet. Well, I think that could be an age thing as much as anything else. 913-408-7957. Let's go to you and go to Mike in KCK. What's up, Mike?
Yeah, one thing that helps me out, get to your meeting wherever you got to do your luncheon, about a half an hour early, sit in the car, about 10 minutes, do a reboot, close your eyes, get yourself a little bit of REM sleep and go into it. Usually gets you through them. The teleconferences are the hardest to stay awake through.
That sounds nice. Statistics. That sounds nice, but Mike, we don't always have the good fortune of being able to leave a meeting a half hour early to take a nap before it starts. We got a lot of things going on around here. I know that's not the perception when you do radio, but I'm just saying. Will's in the Northland. What's up, Will? You're on KCMO.
Hey, Pete. Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, so my most embarrassing fell asleep story was my girlfriend at the time, wife now. We were both in college. I was in Army ROTC. We had just came out of the field for a training event, me and the rest of my ROTC people. And we were sitting in bed talking, and all of a sudden I just fell asleep while she was in the middle of talking to me about her day. So needless to say, I did not score that night.
How long had you been dating when that happened?
I want to say it was about 2 to 3 months.
2 to 3 months into your dating of your now wife, you fell asleep mid-conversation. But you know what? You were working on serving your country. I can't give you a hard time for that, and I hope she didn't either.
Yeah, well, it happens.
It happens.
Yeah, she understood, I think.
Good. Well, thanks for your service again there, Will. That's good stuff. I fell asleep the first movie Kate and I went to at the movie theaters, but I had no shame in that because I fall asleep in movies, whether it's at home or in movie theaters all the time. Mike's in Overland Park. Hey, Mike, good morning. You're on KCMO.
I've always been able to fall asleep very easily. 20 years ago, after we had 2 kids, I fell asleep during my vasectomy.
Is that right? Now, do they put you under for that or no?
No, they did not.
Oh, so they just numb you?
they just numbed me, but I lay down. Because I lay down, I can always fall asleep. And so the doctor said, I have never seen this before.
That's impressive. Falling asleep during the vasectomy. You know what, though? Hey, when you got two little kids, you got to catch a nap when you can, right?
Amen.
That's right. That's very well done. That's killing two birds with one stone. I'm going to rest up, take a nap while I get my vasectomy. Well done there, Mike in Overland Park. Jonathan in Kansas City. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey, Pete. How you doing?
Doing well, buddy. What's going on?
So this has happened to me the last couple of years. I don't know. Maybe it's just a part of getting older. I've heard stories of older people doing this. Sometimes I'll fall asleep in the car after I park it, not while driving it, but after I park it. And, I'll pause for just a second before going into a store or a restaurant. And that's long enough for sometimes me to fall asleep for a few minutes and, get some rest before I get out and go to whatever business I'm going into. I will say, since I took a night job about a year ago, it's happened a lot more often.
Has anyone ever called the cops and thought you were a dead guy just sitting there in the car?
No, because usually it's only for a few minutes.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know. I just feel like if the cops got a call like that in the city, they'd probably be like, yeah, we got too much going on right now. I guess in a rural area, it might be more likely to happen and where it's not as busy, and there's just less distractions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's I haven't heard that one before. Thank you, Jonathan. 913-408-7957. Mark, do you have a most embarrassing place you've fallen asleep?
People were talking about church. Now,
do you have an answer?
Yeah.
Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay. Hold that thought.
Okay.
913-408-7957. It's a Wednesday morning. We're having fun with you after it was announced or reported yesterday that Joe Biden almost fell asleep on the debate stage last Thursday. I mean, that's as embarrassing as it gets. So I'm just asking you the most embarrassing place you've fallen asleep. Mine was at a first watch with a very prominent politician in the area you would all know, and I will never live it down. I will be on my deathbed thinking about it and trying to learn from it as well. Mark's got his answer. We've got more of you coming up. 913-408-7957. Some of you bringing up that Andrea Mitchell fell asleep on the air yesterday on MSNBC. I did see that. I actually shared that on X at Pete Mundo. So we got Joe Biden apparently telling his staff yesterday that he almost fell asleep on stage last Thursday night. Andrea Mitchell did fall asleep. And I shared that yesterday morning on my X page. Andrea Mitchell, by the way, 77 years old. I didn't realize she was that old. I mean, what are you doing? Go live your life. Andrea Mitchell's got a ton of money. She's married to Alan Greenspan. Go live your life. What are you doing? Falling asleep on television on MSNBC to rag on Donald Trump at almost 80 years old. What are you doing with yourself? Now, I don't think she has any children, which, listen, when you get to that point in life and you don't have anything else to really live for, I guess being on MSNBC and ragging on Trump is as good as it gets. But anyway, I saw that yesterday too, and it's like, gosh, when do you just give it up? When do you say enough's enough? Go hang out with Alan. He's still alive. He's got to be, I think he's, how old is Alan Greenspan? Let me look that up real quick. 98. Holy cow. God bless him. All right. Okay, so we've been asking you the most embarrassing place you've fallen asleep. Mark teased his before the break. Mark, you've got two answers for me here. Let it rip.
Yeah, people were talking about falling asleep in church. That's a little embarrassing. More embarrassing if your dad's the pastor preaching.
Oh, is that right?
That happened to me. And
but it's your dad.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's reading you a bedtime story.
Yeah, I was going to say, you hear his voice. You've been hearing it since you came out of the womb. I mean, if you're really tired. Now, does he know you fell asleep?
I never asked him about it. I assume he probably knows. I was more embarrassed because I'm like, oh, man, everybody's staring.
Oh.
Nobody was staring at me. But as a kid, I'm like, oh, everybody was looking at me. I'm so embarrassed.
It's more like, did other people see me falling asleep in front of my dad while he was preaching?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's why I was embarrassed.
All right.
But the second one, first week on the job, in radio, first morning show job as a producer, and I start falling asleep in the first segment.
Oh, so the first show you were producing.
It was the second day on the job.
Second day on the job, but first big show you're a part of, big morning show here in Kansas City that's no longer around.
Yep.
You fall asleep second day on the job, first segment.
I start nodding off, like, you can see me in the glass right here. Same situation.
Yeah.
I start, like, my head starts going forward. The person I'm working with literally had a grapefruit in their hand, throws it at the window, and there's splattering of fruit on the window. And I wake up, never fallen asleep since then.
I'm just wondering why the host of the show carried around a grapefruit.
That's a great question as well. But another thing about radio, they never clean the glass in that place. 6 years later, the splattered fruit was still there.
Oh, that is disgusting.
I know. She should have cleaned it up. But
that says more about who you worked for, too.
That's true.
I wouldn't allow that to happen.
No.
Okay? I mean, not that I throw things at you. I don't think I've ever done that in my life and ever would. Mark got a big upgrade coming to this show. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, yeah.
But if, God forbid, there was ever fruit on the glass that I'm looking at to see you, I mean, it would freak me out, and I would have I would clean it up myself. That'd be the right thing to do. But if nothing else, someone's got to clean that up. That's disgusting.
Yeah, I should have cleaned it up, honestly, but it was my fault. I fall asleep, but yeah, it was weird.
It doesn't mean you get a grapefruit chucked at you. All right, John in Independence, what do you got for me, buddy, on your most embarrassing falling asleep story?
Yeah, I just recalled a good one. I had just met my wife, my future wife.
Okay.
And it was the first time I called her. It was kind of late, and I was pretty exhausted. Probably shouldn't have called.
Mm-hmm.
I fell asleep several times during the phone call, our very first phone call. And I would wake up, she was talking, and I'd fall asleep. And then I'd wake up all of a sudden, and I'm like, oh, my God, what was she talking about? And I'd just kind of fake it, like, I knew, I'd just say something kind of general, and then I'd start talking about something, and then I'd fall asleep again.
Oh, no.
And then, later, I think years later, I said, did you realize I was falling asleep during our very first conversation? She said, well, I thought maybe you were just a really good conversationalist and you kept changing, the subject to interest, something interesting. But she didn't even know it, but I was like sweating, like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I was just crazy about her.
Well,
and I'm falling asleep.
You made it. You made it through there, John. Good work, my man.
20 years later.
Attaboy. Way to go, pal. All right.
Thanks.
Nice work. 913-408-7957.